Chapter 24, Story of the Sky. Jerahab slowly placed his foot down for his fourth side step. It was now time to fill the Raqia with Or's glory. He leaned into the universal sphere and gazed down upon Salem. He gently placed his face against the sky of Elinthial and prepared to address the realm of the regions, along with Kohengal and Nekemabed. The regions had been waiting for their assignment. Nekemabed arrived near the great temple, below Jerahab's face and in front of the region's doors. "Fancy meeting you here," Nekemabed laughingly said to Jerahab. "Yes, what are the odds?" The roar of their laughter alerted the realm of the regions. The magnificent creatures appeared before their entrances. "This is it," exclaimed a voice from the eastern region. "This is it," Kohengal emphasized. The air was electrified by his presence. "This is the assignment you were created for. Today, Or's glory will shine in the cosmos through each of you. You will proclaim the journey of the coming king. Day to day you will speak truth, and night to night you will show forth knowledge. Your message will be seen by all unto the end of the second age. Present yourself, Eastern region," Jerahab spoke in a low tone. The door of the region instantly widened to accommodate its occupants. A woman appeared holding a branch in one hand and an ear of corn in the other, as did the winged lion, 2 herds of sheep, and a raven. Within your region is the untainted beginning of the story, as well as the victorious end, for all things come from the east and end in the east. Next, Nekemabed addressed them. "I will lead you out of Elinthial and into the space prepared for you. There will be no more separation between the regions. You will all share the Raqia." Nekemabed paused for a moment, then called forth the objects from within their territory. Immediately, a schooner-style ship, a bronze carafe, a set of 24 stars, and a sundry of other things appeared before the occupants. "Follow me, your new home awaits," he said as he traveled into the shaft of light. The eastern region followed closely behind until they were given their new heavenly positions. Kohengal stretched out his hand toward the vacant door. Then he formed a tight fist. The entire region disappeared. Kohengal held the remains within his hand. With a twist of his wrist, he turned his hand over, unclenched his fingers, and blew across his palm. At that instant, Jerahab inhaled the region's remains. "Present yourself, northern region," boomed Jerahab. The door widened and the occupants appeared. The eagle with a serpent in his mouth, a lamb, a dolphin, and an odd creature that was half goat and half fish, a fully armed archer who appeared as half man and half horse, and the belittled dragon. "Within you the battle of judgment will reign. The burden will be broken and the crown preserved," Jerahab stated, and then turned to the dragon. "As I told you before, you will not be representing us. You will represent your new master, Nekal, who was once called Sar." Nekemabed had returned to call forth the objects from this region as well. Within an instant, the massive stone altar which the eagle had protected appeared along with a beautiful crown and harp. Nekemabed ushered them into the cosmos and introduced them to their stations in the Raqia. Once empty, Kohengal stretched forth his other hand and removed its contents, just as he had done with the eastern region. "Present yourself, southern region," Jerahab called out. The southern region's door collapsed, exposing its occupants from within. 2 fish tethered together, a man holding a large carafe full of water, a winged horse, a woman holding chains standing next to a throne, and a shepherd with a crown. Within you, the redeeming gift is freely given, and a bride is found. Kohengal gestured toward the eastern gate as Nekemabed returned from the cosmos. "He will be your escort into the Raqia, where you will proclaim your part of the story of old. It will be a wondrous time when your representation is fulfilled," Kohengal stated with a smile. Nekemabed led the way for the southern region into the Raqia. The western region stood alone. Its door appeared much bigger without the other regions present. By now, all of its occupants had crowded around to hear what Jerahab had to say. Jerahab could see their excitement as several oxen stumbled out of the entrance. "Do come out," Jerahab said in a tender voice to the oxen. "Let me look at all of you." With these words, Kohengol looked at the remaining region and blinked. Instantly, the western region was gone, and all of its occupants stood looking up at Jerahab. There stood a herd of oxen, a shepherd, a robed judge, an armed hunter, a crowned prince, a hare, and a dog. To their side flowed a large river that had been housed within the region as well. Within your region, all preparations are made to return to the east. The added one is established, and the bride is joined to the prince. In you, the stage is set for the two folds to work together, Jerahab declared. Nekemabed had returned from the cosmos and was eager to lead this last region to its new home. Before leaving, he addressed Kohengol. "I will wait for your word before calling forth the others." "Yes," shot back Kohengol, "they are needed to complete the story." Nekemabed nodded in complete agreement and turned to guide the western region into the Raqia. The children did not fully understand what they were seeing, but recognized it as an important prophecy. They watched Nekemabed escort the western region out of Elenthial. This region moved as one unit, unlike the other regions. The large river from within the territory carried the region's occupants. "I know this is supposed to be a river, but it looks like a trail of little rocks to me," Simon announced. As Simon made his announcement, Sarah squinted, examining the river's contents. "Those look more like diamonds," she retorted. The glistening light bouncing off the river seemed to support Sarah's conjecture. "I believe those are actually stars," announced Joshua. "Stars? They aren't big enough to be stars," Morris replied. Rashawn had been reading during the side discussions, but decided that he needed to pause for a moment. As he did, the screen froze. "Interesting observation, Joshua. What led you to believe they were stars?" "Well," Joshua stuttered as he looked directly at Rashawn, "the eastern region had a set of stars that made me think about the story of the sky. Then, when I saw the river carrying the occupants of the western region, I started thinking about their size. That is when I realized that everything we were seeing was much larger than we understood. At that moment, I remembered that the story of the sky had begun as actual figures." Rashawn was impressed that Joshua understood that the realm of the regions held the story of the sky. Remember, children, Or has just placed the regions into the outer parts of the Raqia as a prophecy for the coming king. The greater and lesser lights, which we will soon see, will work within the story to point to the appointed times, or place them there to be signs and seasons for us. With that said, Rashawn returned to the text and read the next word. The screen flickered and displayed a view of the Raqia inside the cosmos. This was the first time that the realm of the regions had shared the same space. The excitement was apparent in the participants as they looked around. Most of them were seeing each other for the first time. Kohengol's voice was heard throughout the Raqia. "I have placed before each and every one of you a path to follow. It is of utmost importance that you follow your path. Do not veer off, not even for a moment. Your placement is vital to the story, for you are the story of the sky. Nekemabed, call forth the remaining stars." Nekemabed then broke through the outer boundary of the Raqia and stood on its surface where it pressed against the outer edge. The Asoavel coiled back from his presence. As Nekemabed looked out into the darkness of the Asoavel, the outer edge moved back once again. Countless stars emerged within the newly uncovered cosmos. A fourth trumpet appeared before him. This trumpet was different from the others, for it had 3 valve casings with finger buttons. Nekemabed placed the trumpet to his lips and drew in 3 quick breaths. With each breath, Asoavel was captured within the valve casings. The final breath drew in a star. Once the star entered the bell of the trumpet, it immediately darkened. Nekemabed sighed with a brief moment of grief and then sent the trumpet back to Elenthial. The stars had assembled into numerous groups while Nekemabed was filling the trumpet. They patiently awaited their command. With a loud shout, Nekemabed called forth stars from every direction, each one by their name. Moments later, innumerable stars were seen screaming across the darkness and raining into the Raqia. Nikal paraded himself under Elenthial's northern gate. It did not take long for him to become reacquainted with the Zood. "My ornament has returned," Nikal arrogantly announced. Looking directly at the northern sector, he bellowed out, "My creation will not be stopped." Nikal was gloating over his regained beauty when Nekemebed entered the area. Suddenly, an electrical surge passed through Nikal's body. What was that? Looking around, he saw Nekemebed. "Have you come to challenge me?" he yelled out. Nekemebed was a distance away and chose to ignore Nikal. A streak of light flashed before Nikal's eyes and then disappeared into an object in Nekemebed's hand. As he walked closer to Nekemebed, he called out, "Why are you in my cosmos?" There was still no response, but the electrical surge grew stronger. Nikal noticed that with each step forward, he grew brighter and brighter, and that the darkness of the Isoavel became littered with lights. "My presence is revealing the stars," he thought. While still admiring his intensifying brightness, he proclaimed, "I am the brightest star and the coming king." Nekemebed glanced over toward Nikal with a half smirk as he gave his command. The screech of the rocketing stars drove Nikal to his knees with fear. Silence fell upon the darkness as all was still again. Nikal cautiously rose, only to realize that he was alone outside of the Raqia and no longer shined like a star. After the western region exited Elenthial, Jerahab pulled his face back into the great unknown and reached for the scroll. The universal sphere hovered motionless as if frozen. "Come forth." As he spoke, he placed his fist over the sphere and angled his ring downward. A piercing shrill broke into the great unknown as a stream of pale green slime shot out of the universe. His ring turned green as it filled with a foreign substance. Immediately, the universal sphere was back in motion. Jerahab carefully moved his fist over to the scroll, ready to secure his fourth seal. He held his ring above the scroll as if waiting for something to happen. As the pale green substance began to drop onto the parchment, images of curved swords, wild beasts, and bones could be seen. Once his ring was clean and the green slime was in place next to the third seal, Jerahab firmly pressed his ring into the substance, leaving behind the mark of Or. Back at the western gate in Elenthial, Nagad had finished relaying Kohengal's message. Uriel listened to the conversation as he stared out toward the cosmos, still shocked at the reappearance of Nikal. The glow from Nikal's figure still flickered in the distance. Then the Zood on Nikal's figure intensified when Nekemebed stood on the Raqia. Nikal must be reflecting Or's light. He no longer has an internal light, Uriel thought. Within moments, a series of stars were uncovered. Uriel spotted the changes in the cosmos and asked, "Are those stars?" Nagad immediately quieted as he and Shatar gazed out into the cosmos. "I believe you are right. Those are stars," Nagad responded. "I thought they were all gone or still hidden under the outer edge." Shatar tilted his head as he tried to focus on the multiplying specks of light. The brightness of the stars shot forward and then disappeared, as if its flame had been quenched. "Nekemebed is standing out there. Hopefully he will take care of Nikal," Shatar said, drawing the others' attention to Nekemebed. "What is he doing?" asked Uriel. "Maybe he will throw those stars at Nikal," Shatar replied in a wishful tone. "That would be an interesting use of light," retorted Nagad. "From what I gathered from Kohengal, Nikal will be around for a bit longer." "What? Why?" Shatar was interrupted by the shrieking noise of shooting stars. The Raqia was already filled with light. However, with the added pattern of illumination from the stars, they could now detect a series of figures moving around within the Raqia and recognize some of their shapes. "Look over there," Uriel shouted as he pointed in the opposite direction of where everyone was looking. A pale green haze stirred. Then, within seconds, the haze had become a billowing cloud of green smoke. The smoke churned and churned until it percolated into a slimy substance. Suddenly, with a great force, the pale green slime slammed into the wall of Elenthial and disappeared. The gates rattled, and the angelics braced themselves for another tremor. Kolhengol stood before the table of happenings once again. The room seemed to have shrunk in his presence. The children watched Kolhengol take the fourth vial down from the shelf. As he slowly loosened the lid, he searched the image for a particular spot. All of a sudden, his eyes lit up and he plunged the vial into the Raqia. An explosion of light filled the vial and he quickly pulled it back out of the image. Nikamibed took a moment to admire the beauty of the story. There were only a few more elements to be added to the Raqia to fulfill the order. He moved toward the eastern sky where the occupants of the eastern region had made their home. Nikamibed extended his arms out and called, "Come forth!" Immediately, a fire shot forth from the lion and the woman. "A piece of the beginning and the end," Nikamibed whispered. The two flames merged with a massive explosion, creating the greater light. With the illumination from the greater light, the other stones of fire became visible. When the outer edge was pushed back to make way for the Raqia, or had let them remain in their prior positions, Nikamibed drew in a slight breath as he circled his open hand above his head, as if lassoing in an object. A portion of rocks from Rahab's remains was assembled into a circular pattern around the newly formed greater light and the four stones of fire. He eyed one particular boulder of enormous size and drew it toward Aphar. With it perfectly angled, he said, "You will follow Aphar's rotation and reflect the greater light as it moves around Aphar. You will be called the lesser light, the one of the night's sky." Turning his attention to the remaining parts of Rahab scattered about throughout the Raqia, he commanded all other fragments of the fifth stone of fire into a second circular pattern. This band was much broader than the first one Nikamibed had established. He stepped between the two rings of rocks, pressed his arms out, and ordered, "Separate!" Immediately, the second ring expanded and moved outward. Nikamibed blew a gentle breath which pushed the second ring further away from the stones of fire. Out with his breath floated four enormous, colorful balls of gas.